Assalamualaikum and a very good morning to my dear lecturer, Mr. Hafiz, and also to my fellow friends and fellow classmates of 5E. My name is Amirul Ezzat Bin Mohammad Seri, and I will be presenting to everyone who's watching this video the lesson and also task development that I have created that focuses on the main skill, which is listening, and also implementing the drama technique podcast, using podcast as a teaching tool in an English language teaching setting. Uh, that I have created for specifically Form 2 students. So without further ado, I will straight away go into what I will be presenting for today. Now, before we go in deeper, we have to go through introduction. Now, like I said just now, the skill assigned would be teaching listening. The students I will cater for this lesson would be Form 2 students. The topic I have chosen because this is the non-textbook lesson. I have depicted it from the SOW, scheme of work for English Form 2. The topic that I have chosen is party invitation that has relation towards giving instructions or giving directions. Yes. And the theme would be people and culture. The level of competency would be A2, referring to Form 2 students, A2, based on the DSKP and CFR. And this lesson is created for a physical classroom setting, meaning it is not an online class. It does not need to have a Google Meet or a Zoom meeting. It is done in a classroom setting. So the materials that will be used in this lesson will be podcast audio, picture/storyboard, worksheet. And the equipment needed to initiate this lesson in a classroom setting would be laptop, speakers, and projector by the teacher, not the students, by the teacher. Now, here is the scheme of work. Like I said, non-textbook lesson. So I straight away go to the content standard. The main skill would be listening 1.1, understand meaning in a variety of familiar contexts. And also the complementary skill would be the same, listening 1.1, understand meaning in a variety of familiar contexts. And the learning standard would be main skill, listening 1.1.6, understand with little or no support longer simple narratives on a wide range of familiar topics. And last but not least, complementary skill, listening 1.1.5, understand with little or no support more complex questions. We'll go on to the objectives for this presentation. For this lesson, by the end of this lesson, students will be able to 1. Describe a picture related inviting a friend to a party. 2. Classify simple directions based on pictures given. 3. Listen to a podcast and determine the right descriptions for the people in the podcast. 4. Answer questions related to the podcast audio. And last but not least, 5. Initiate discussions through sharing session with classmates regarding the topic. Now, like we all know, there are 3 stages in listening: pre-listening, while listening, and post-listening. So, for we go to the first stage of listening, which is pre-listening, where it all begins. So the time allocated for this pre-listening activity is 15 minutes, and it is divided into 2 stages. I have divided into 2 stages for just one pre-listening activity. So the first stage would be guess it. It is named guess it. So basically, in this activity, the students are required to guess what the topic of the day is based on a picture or a storyboard that the teacher will display in front of the class via projector or any other means of displaying it in front of the class. The students are required to come front and jot down as many answers for guesses or assumptions of the topic of the day on the whiteboard, and the time allocated for this phase will only be 5 minutes. So they are given 5 minutes for the whole class to go in front and come up with as many guesses and as many assumptions for the topic already based on the picture displayed by the teacher. So after the 5 minutes are up, the teacher will go through the written down answers with the class like usual. Then we go on to the next stage. Like I said, there's a second stage, which is preparation task. So basically, the teacher will give a preparation task, a very simple preparation task that requires the students to write down the right description into the right box. And the time allocated for this task is 5 minutes. After that, the teacher will go through the answers with the students like usual. And after the 2 activities have been done by the student, the teacher will finally reveal to the students the actual topic of the day, which is party invitation that has relation towards giving direction. Justification for the pre-listening activity. There's a reason why I divided. There are 2 stages for the pre-listening activity. For the first stage, it requires the students to make a very general assumption of what the topic will be based on the picture that is shown by the teacher or displayed by the teacher. The next stage requires them to also do the same thing but connects what they got from stage 2 with stage 1 and make a conclusion of their final narrowed down assumption or guess for the topic of the day. So they have to make connections there or correlations between the two entities. There's a reason why I did too. And it is also the reason why I did this was to activate especially their schemata, the student schemata. It is important in lessons to activate student schemata as prior knowledge of students and having the ability to relate their prior knowledge or prior experiences to the topic of the day will help students to have a better interest or be more motivated to get into the lesson, to hear the while listening activity or while listening audio in the next stage, and also will build the confidence of the students to do the task afterwards in the next stages of the lesson. So yes, and also an additional benefit would be it also makes or enables the students to be more aware of new vocabulary, spelling, and also knowledge for future use if there is any new vocabulary or new knowledge that they will go through in the lesson of the day. Now, the next would be while listening activity. And the allocation time for this activity will be only 25 minutes. Now, it is a listening comprehension, listening for gist and detail. So basically, in this activity, teacher will distribute worksheets to the students for while listening activity. Then the students will be asked to listen to a recording of a podcast audio. It is very crucial for teacher to inform the students uh, regarding what type of audio they will be listening to, because sometimes audio can range from a vast area of sometimes automated messages, conversations, usual conversation from people, or maybe podcasts, in this case a podcast. So it is very crucial and fair as well to the students for them to know what type of audio they will be listening to so that they can prepare themselves mentally and try to find ways to digest and also comprehend what will come out of the audio itself. So the teacher will inform the students that the audio will be around 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It is very crucial for the teacher to also state how long would the audio be, because then the students can prepare themselves more, like I said, mentally and physically. And before playing the audio, the teacher will inform the students that the audio will be played 3 times. 3 times. I will get back to this later for the justification. Teacher will then inform the students to skim and scan first the worksheet given before playing the audio. This is very important. Teacher should and must always remind the students to always skim and scan first the worksheet before he or she plays the audio, so that the students will be more prepared for themselves to know or be more aware of what information that they need to derive from the audio recording or the audio podcast, what type of information that they need to find in the audio when they are listening to audio podcast. It is very crucial for them to go through the questions first, know what they need to find, and then listen for the specific information that they need to use to answer the questions correctly. Yes. While the audio is being played, students will answer the worksheet. Time allocated for answering the questions will be 10 minutes. 10 minutes excluding 10 minutes is not including uh, the 3 times the audio is being played. It is excluded. So after the 3 times the audio is being played, then 10 minutes are given to the students, because the worksheet that I have created for them has 10 multiple choice questions and also a table or a group of table that they need to fill in. So 3 times is a very rational put is a very rational precaution step for me to give them, so that they have enough time to find what they need to find, they find the specific information they need to use for answering the questions. After everyone has done with the worksheet, teacher will choose a few students to give their answers in class for each question provided. So here below is the worksheet that I have created. Like I said, 10 MCQ questions, and also there's a task one with a table in it. So below are some sentences that describes Olivia and Sam throughout the podcast session. With the sentences in write the sentences in the correct people. Yes. So the justification for this activity. It encourages note-taking during while listening stage. Based on research done in 2013, the findings from that research showed that students who used note-taking methods had a higher level of comprehension, cited by Ahor and Bargul, 2015. This activity, the audio recording itself is 3 minutes and 30 seconds. It is a range of 2 minutes to 5 minutes is the most appropriate length of a podcast that should be used for a lesson. That's the most suitable range for a lesson for podcast duration. It is very encouraging. In this lesson, it encourages students to write down, jot down, or take note of what it is said in the podcast audio so that they won't miss any information that they need for the questions afterwards. Multiple choice question demands the students to be more aware and focused during the listening audio slash podcast being played. Questions such as these require students to be focused on specific information, thus creating a situation where they have to listen to the audio podcast for answers. MCQ questions have specific demands of answers that they want the students to try and find in the audio or podcast itself. So multiple choice questions really demands the students to be focused in listening to the podcast and not dwell and get distracted from other things and not listening to the podcast. It really makes the students be more focused into the audio or the listening activity. And last but not least, listening to the podcast at least twice helps students to get the most out of it. Cited by Olha 2018. This is because students spend most of their time completing the activity for the while listening stage. This is the reason I put 3 times, playing the recording 3 times. It is very crucial actually because as cited by OHA, it gives the students the most out of it for the recording and for the activity itself. And last but not least will be post-listening activity. Allocation time will be 10 minutes. It's a discussion. So basically, the students would be given a very open-ended question. Have they ever gotten lost before? And if so, have they ever needed to ask strangers for directions or vice versa? The students will be given 5 minutes to recap their experiences in facing the situation by writing down on a piece of paper first. And after the time 5 minutes are up, teacher will choose a few students to share the experiences of the situation by reading out the answers to the class, to the whole class. So there's an implementation of also speaking and writing skill, but very minor, not very major, but very minor. The teacher will jot down any points or comments that will be used later on the post lesson. Justification for this activity. It is to reflect about the new information that they have learned into this lesson, which is party invitation at the same time giving directions. Discussion gives room for students to discuss with one another in class in regards to the topic of the lesson. Discussion can cater to incidents they have witnessed or they have experienced to be shared to other members of the class who have never experienced it at all. So it will be new knowledge and new information for the students that have never gone through it before. So it is a sharing session and also a discussion, sharing opinions and also facts or general knowledge. So this activity is very suitable as students would feel motivated to listen because they can see their own ideas and situation reflected from the audio itself and hear views that confirm or challenge their own, whether in the discussion or also in the audio podcast itself, cited by Wilson 2008. And last but not least, we end it with the conclusion for this presentation. So this lesson encourages students to be more focused and aware of the information being presented in the audio slash podcast played during class session. It also encourages students to do note taking for specific questions being asked for the worksheet. Taking notes while listening to a lengthy audio, it gives an advantage for students to be more efficient in acquiring the knowledge or acquiring information, and also especially eliminates the probability of short-term memory of retrieving an information because you already jotted down the notes and taking notes beforehand, so you won't forget afterwards. And last but not least, the podcast learning in this lesson is used as a medium in the shape of audio file for the students to retrieve information by via What's Good podcast that I have chosen and created myself with my friend. So podcast is now becoming a very common thing among people, among new generations in this era. You can find a lot of podcasts online, and also exposing this especially for native speakers or very well spoken speakers of the native language. It is very important for them to acquire the pronunciation of the well spoken speakers of the native language by using podcasts as a medium for them to retrieve the word pronunciation, and also maybe some culture information for them. So that is all for me for my presentation. If there is any questions regarding my presentation or regarding the lesson plan I have created, you can comment down in the comment section below. I'll get back to you as soon as possible. That's all from me. Thank you.